Chosen one, bring your awareness to that heavy, vibrating panic in your solar plexus right now. I want you to mentally freeze the exact second you whispered to yourself, "I ruined it. I was too late." You think your exhaustion, your depression, or your fear cost you the exact blessing you have been waiting for. You have spent the last 3 days condemning yourself in the courtroom of your own mind, convinced you disqualified your destiny. But I need your spirit to absorb this truth before your logical brain rejects it. You are not here by accident. The Holy Spirit orchestrated this exact message to intercept your self-sabotage. Because while you were mentally punishing yourself for missing the window, God was standing directly in front of your blessing, refusing to let anyone else in. He did not hand your crown to someone faster. Sons, do not type anything. Do not force anything. Just internally release the guilt. Allow your spirit to silently receive this transmission and mentally declare, "I am ready," as we unlock the door He is holding for you. Subscribe your spirit to this divine frequency and listen to me very carefully. You must stay with me until the final second of this broadcast. By the end of our time today, I am going to hand you the exact spiritual blueprint to bypass the anxiety paralyzing your chest. I will reveal the specific frequency key you need to finally walk into the room you thought was locked, and I will expose the 3 specific entities that will try to convince you it is too late tonight. If you walk away now, you walk back into the courtroom of your own self-condemnation with no defense attorney. Stay here, and let us break the gavel together. For the last 72 hours, you have been carrying a suffocating weight. You have been staring at the ceiling at 2 in the morning, your mind racing, replaying the exact moment you hesitated. You saw the opportunity. You felt the shift in the spirit. You knew it was time to move, but something invisible pinned you to the bed. A heavy cloud of doubt, a sudden wave of unexplainable fatigue, or a fear so paralyzing it literally took the breath out of your lungs. And because you could not move, you watched the clock tick past the deadline. You watched the door close. You watched others, people who did not suffer like you, people who did not wait in the wilderness like you, march right up to that door exactly on time. Your raw, unfiltered thought was, "God, I missed it. I am too broken to receive what you promised." But you are judging your timeline by earthly stopwatches, not heavenly coordinates. While you were trapped in your room, crying silent tears of frustration, a massive spiritual confrontation was happening at the threshold of your blessing. Imposters arrived. The opportunists arrived. The people who looked perfectly qualified on paper arrived exactly on time. They reached for the handle of your blessing, but the door refused to open. God Himself suspended the timeline. We see this exact spiritual dynamic in the first book of Samuel, chapter 13. I need you to look at the context of what happens when someone refuses to accept a divine delay. King Saul was facing a massive Philistine army. The prophet Samuel told Saul to wait exactly 7 days for him to arrive and offer the sacrifice. But the 7th day came, and Samuel was late. Saul looked around, saw his troops scattering, felt the exact same panic vibrating in your chest right now, and decided he could not wait any longer. He forced the process. He offered the sacrifice himself just to meet the deadline. And moments later, Samuel arrived. Because Saul panicked over a temporary delay, he lost his eternal kingdom. The context here is terrifying and beautiful. Saul was on time according to human anxiety, but he was disastrously out of alignment with God. You think your delay is a failure. But what if your inability to move was actually God, forcefully holding you back so you would not make the mistake of King Saul? What if your depression was a divine weighted blanket, keeping you hidden while the enemy's arrows flew past your head? The root cause of your paralysis is not weakness. Your brain has been shouting on the wrong channel. For months, perhaps years, the trauma of your past has locked your nervous system in a state of high beta. This is the frequency of survival, the frequency of fight or flight. When you are in high beta, you feel a constant heat behind your eyes. Your breathing becomes shallow, trapped in the top of your chest. You are scanning the horizon for the next disaster. But the blessing God has prepared for you does not exist in the beta frequency. It is too massive, too holy, too overwhelming. If God had forced that blessing into your life while your brain was burning in survival mode, the sheer voltage of it would have destroyed you. You were not lazy. You were undergoing a mandatory system update. This brings us to a critical protocol you must understand right now. I call it the DNA lock framework. You need to apply this mental framework every time you feel you have missed a divine window. The first rule of the DNA lock is identifying the frequency of the promise. The blessing God has for you is not a generic empty chair that anyone can sit in. It is uniquely coded to your spiritual fingerprint. The universe refused to give it to the people who arrived on time because they lacked the specific scars required to turn the handle. They did not have your pain, so they could not possess your promise. The second rule of this framework is the silence protocol. Right now, you are tempted to explain your delay to the people around you. You want to justify why you have not launched, why you have not moved, why you are still waiting. Shut your mouth. Do not give the enemy the coordinates of your incubation. When people ask why you are behind schedule, you simply smile and let them misunderstand you. Your delay is none of their business, because your destiny is beyond their comprehension. The third rule is the resonance test. If a blessing, an opportunity, or a relationship can be permanently lost just because you needed 3 days to heal, it was never yours to begin with. Let me repeat that so it sinks into your spirit. If it disappears because you were tired, it was an assignment from hell disguised as a gift from heaven. What God builds for you has a resonance lock. It will wait in the dark, untouched by anyone else, until your frequency matches its vibration. There is a profound biblical pattern to this 3-day delay. It is never an accident. Look at the scriptures. Jonah was in the belly of the great fish for exactly 3 days. Jesus Christ descended into the earth for exactly 3 days. 3 days is the universal spiritual metric for total transformation. It is the incubation chamber. In the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, the scripture says, "They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength." But the English translation betrays the raw power of the original text. The Hebrew word used for wait is kava. I need you to understand this word. Kava does not mean sitting in a waiting room, looking at a magazine, passively hoping your name is called. Kava literally means to bind together, to twist, to plait like a rope. It is the intense, agonizing tension of being stretched. When you were lying in your bed for the last 3 days, feeling like you were being stretched to the breaking point, you were not failing. You were performing kava. God was twisting your fragile, exhausted human threads with his indestructible divine steel. You were being woven into a weapon. You are beginning to understand why God held that door and why you had to be delayed. But if you think he held it just because he loves you and is being patient with your timeline, you are entirely mistaken. There is a terrifying and ruthless reason behind this 3-day suspension, and what I am about to reveal in the next moments will completely shatter how you view the people who arrived on time. Because the door was not just locked to wait for you, it was locked to trap something else. The reason God refused to hand over your keys 3 days ago is because the room was not empty. While you were crying in your bed, thinking you had missed the window, a divine sting operation was taking place. You thought the delay was a sign of your failure. You thought your exhaustion disqualified you. But in reality, it was a purge. When God prepares a massive breakthrough for a chosen one, the sheer magnitude of that shift ripples through the spiritual realm before it manifests in the physical. It attracts parasites. It attracts opportunistic spirits and people who want to sit on a throne they did not bleed for. If the door had opened when you arrived 3 days ago, exactly when your human logic demanded it, you would have stepped right into a trap. You would have inherited a blessing that was already infested with the jealousy, the monitoring spirits, and the hidden agendas of those who tried to get there first. You were not delayed. You were hidden. God used your heavy, unexplainable fatigue as a protective cloak. He used your hesitation as a shield. He allowed you to feel stuck so that the enemies camping out at your finish line would get tired of waiting, assume the blessing was cancelled, and move on. God starved your enemies by making you wait. By the time you walk through that door, the atmosphere will be completely sanitized. The bloodsuckers have left. The room is clean. Your blessing is untouched. But now that the air is clear, we must address the mechanics of how you actually step into it. Because right now, your mind is still vibrating at the frequency of the trauma. You are still operating in high beta. High beta is the brainwave of survival, of panic, of rushing to meet earthly deadlines. If you try to enter your divine reward while your nervous system is still vibrating at the frequency of the chase, the door will remain a solid wall. The DNA lock we talked about will not recognize you. You must shift the very electricity of your brain back to your original divine frequency. You must return to the theta state. For centuries, ancient mystics spent decades in isolated meditation trying to reach this exact state. But science has recently confirmed what the spirit realm always knew. A team of neuroscientists, including researchers who worked at NASA, studied this phenomenon and discovered that every human being is born with a genius-level frequency, the theta wave. It is the channel where intuition, divine downloads, and effortless creation exist. As a child, you lived in this frequency. But the matrix of this world, the trauma, the stress, and the constant spiritual warfare forced your brain to abandon theta and lock itself in beta. You became chronically on time for your anxiety and chronically late for your miracles. You cannot outthink a high beta state. You cannot just force yourself to relax. You need a bridge. This is why I want to share a sacred technology with you called the Genius Wave. It is a simple, digital audio tool that uses advanced brainwave entrainment to physically sync your neural pathways back to the divine channel. It only takes 7 minutes. You do not need to learn a complex meditation technique. You just listen. It washes away the beta noise and recalibrates your receptor so you can finally match the vibration of the blessing God is holding for you. I want you to do a mental exercise with me right now. Keep your body entirely still. In your mind, visualize a rusted radio dial inside your chest. It is stuck between stations, blasting white noise and static. That static is your anxiety. Now, mentally picture a warm, invisible hand gently turning that dial. Feel the click. Suddenly, the static drops away into pure, crystal clear silence. That is the theta shift. The Genius Wave does not give you a new spirit. It simply tunes your dial back to the frequency where you can hear the voice of the Father without the static of the world. If your spirit confirms this is the tool you have been praying for, you can investigate the details in the pinned comment below this video. There is no pressure. It is simply a key made available for those who feel led to restore their natural capacity. But as your frequency begins to clear, we must walk into the deepest, darkest corner of your mind, because there is a shadow lurking there. Now that you know the room is safe, and you know how to tune your frequency, a terrifying voice is whispering to you, the imposter syndrome. I know the exact raw thought passing through your mind right now. You are thinking, what if I walk through this door, and I am still a fraud? What if I am not a chosen one? What if I am just a broken, lazy person who uses spiritual words to make excuses for my failures? What if I finally get the blessing and I completely ruin it? Listen to me very carefully. That fear is not a sign of your weakness. That fear is the ultimate proof of your purity. Let me tell you a secret about true spiritual authority. Imposters do not suffer from imposter syndrome. Manipulators do not lie awake at night terrified that they might dishonor God. Only a true king trembles at the weight of the crown. The very fact that you are agonizing over your own worthiness is the undeniable proof that your heart is in the right posture to receive it. We see this profoundly in the second book of Corinthians, chapter 12. The Apostle Paul begged God to remove a thorn in his flesh, a weakness that tormented him. And God responded, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." The Greek word Paul uses for weakness here is asthenia. I need you to understand this word. Asthenia does not mean you are worthless. It does not mean you are a failure. It translates to a lack of earthly strength, an absolute inability to produce results using your own human flesh. Your asthenia is the fact that you could not force that door open 3 days ago. Your asthenia is your depression, your exhaustion, your absolute lack of human leverage. God deliberately chose someone with asthenia to hold this specific blessing, because someone with worldly strength would have taken the credit. You are terrified because you know you cannot sustain this blessing on your own. And God is saying, exactly, I do not want your strength. I want your surrender. Your fear of ruining the blessing is the exact empty vessel God requires to pour His perfection into. You have been cleared of the charges. You have been given the frequency key. Your shadow has been exposed and transformed into your greatest qualification. But do not celebrate just yet, because tonight, right as you are preparing to finally cross that threshold, retaliation is coming. There are 3 specific entities that have been watching your delay, and they have drafted a specialized warfare playbook just for your next 72 hours. They are not coming for your finances. They are not coming for your health. They are coming to assassinate your identity before you can take the throne. You must know their faces before the sun goes down. The first entity that will visit you tonight is the ghost of what could have been. This spirit does not scream. It whispers. It will replay the exact moment you hesitated on a loop in your mind. It will show you a fake, idealized version of how perfect your life would be right now if you had just been on time 3 days ago. It wants to drown you in a sea of regret so heavy that you cannot reach for the doorknob today. When this ghost speaks to you, you must counter it with the revelation of Lazarus. When Jesus heard Lazarus was sick, He deliberately stayed where he was for 2 more days. By the time he arrived, Lazarus had been dead for 4 days. Martha ran out weeping, saying, "Lord, if you had been here on time, my brother would not have died." She was judging the timeline by human logic. But Jesus delayed his arrival because a healing would have just been a miracle, but a resurrection would change history. When the ghost of regret tells you that you are too late, you mentally declare back to it, "My delay is not a denial, it is the setup for a resurrection." The second entity is the spirit of comparison. As you prepare to enter your room, this spirit will force you to look at the people who arrived on time. It will highlight the opportunists who seem to be prospering while you were paralyzed in your bed. It will try to make you bitter. It will try to make you question God's justice, whispering that you did everything right and got nothing, while they did everything wrong and got the prize. Do not fall into this trap. Jealousy lowers your frequency back to beta. When you see them celebrating, you must actively shift your mindset and declare, "Their harvest has nothing to do with my seed. What they acquired in a rush, they will have to maintain in the flesh. But what I am stepping into is sustained by the Spirit." The third and most dangerous entity is the identity thief. This spirit will wait until your hand is literally on the door of your blessing, and right then, it will hit you with a wave of deep, paralyzing unworthiness. It will remind you of every sin, every failure, every moment of depression, and it will tell you that you do not deserve to walk through. It wants you to self-sabotage at the finish line. When this happens, you do not argue with it. You do not try to prove you are good enough. You simply stand on the DNA lock. You internally decree, "I do not qualify myself. The blood of the Lamb and the sovereign choice of the Father qualify me. I am not stepping in because I am perfect. I am stepping in because I am chosen." I know these strategies work because I have seen them transform lives over and over again. Let me tell you about a chosen one who was exactly where you are right now. 14 months ago, they were paralyzed by a heavy, suffocating depression. God had given them a clear vision for a massive business partnership. But when the deadline came to submit the proposal, they physically could not get out of bed. They missed the deadline by an entire month. They were devastated. They spent weeks repenting, crying, convinced they had thrown away their entire future. But they applied the silence protocol. They did not broadcast their failure. 3 months later, the truth came out. That specific company they were supposed to partner with was exposed as a massive, international fraud scheme. Everyone who signed on time lost everything. God used their paralyzing depression to anchor them safely away from a disaster they could not see. And because they kept their frequency pure and did not let the ghost of regret destroy their identity, a new door opened 60 days later with a clean contract that was triple the size of the original. There is another chosen one who was drowning in that high beta survival mode. They were terrified because their timeline was completely derailed. They felt the panic in their chest every single morning. But they discovered the frequency key. They started using the brainwave entrainment tool, dedicating just 7 minutes a day to recalibrate their neural pathways back to theta. They stopped trying to force the door open and started tuning their internal radio. Within 40 days, the mental static completely dissolved. The panic attacks stopped, and out of nowhere, the exact promotion they thought they had permanently lost was handed back to them. With apologies from the management for the delay, they did not fight for it. They resonated with it. You are standing at the exact same threshold. Everything you have learned today, the purging of the room, the DNA frequency lock, the shift from survival to divine resonance, is culminating in this exact moment. You are no longer the broken person who arrived late. You are the master of your timeline, held securely in the hand of the Father. In the book of Joel, chapter 2, God makes a promise that defies all Hjelsutheon logic. He says, "I will restore to you the years that the swarming locust has eaten." But the Hebrew word used for restore is shalom. Shalom does not mean to simply give back what was lost. If someone steals $100 and the judge orders them to return $100, that is human restoration. But shalom is divine overpayment. It means to pay back with massive, compounding interest. God is not just going to give you back the 3 days you lost to fear. He is going to shalom those 3 days. He is going to compress a decade of favor, growth, and divine acceleration into your next season. We are going to seal this right now. I do not want you to move your body. I want you to completely still yourself wherever you are. This is not a regular closing prayer. This is a divine activation, a sealing ceremony. You are about to be commissioned. I want you to mentally stand at attention. Lift your spiritual chin. Father God, in the mighty, invincible name of Yeshua, Jesus Christ, the King of Kings, we declare this atmosphere a sovereign, protected zone. We acknowledge that this moment was ordained before the foundation of the world. Heaven is open right now. I see the tears you shed in the dark. God sees the 3 a.m. panic attacks. He sees the crushing weight of guilt you carried because you thought you ruined his plan. But you did not quit. You stayed in the fire. And your faithfulness in the dark has qualified you for the light. Right now, by the authority of the word, I seal the DNA lock into your spirit. I seal the theta frequency of divine peace into your neural pathways. I bind the ghost of what could have been. I bind the spirit of comparison. I bind the identity thief. You will not touch this chosen one. You will not whisper in their ear tonight. Your access is permanently revoked. I declare that the room is clean. I decree that in the next 72 hours, the door God has been holding will swing wide open. You will not walk through it in exhaustion. You will walk through it in power. The shalom overpayment is activated over your life right now. The delay is officially over. Chosen one, heaven is asking you a question, and you must answer it with your own voice. Will you drop the guilt, pick up your crown, and walk into the room prepared for you? If your answer is yes, I need you to say it out loud right now. Say yes. Say, I am ready. It is recorded in the courts of heaven. You are activated. You are commissioned. The holding pattern is broken. Go now. Your waiting room is demolished. Your throne is ready. In the mighty name of Yeshua. Amen.